All I've seen in the wake of the Charlie Kirk shooting is a cover-up by the right, a cover-up of the epidemic of gun violence, a policy failure in America, a cover-up of the political violence they've inspired and mocked with their rhetoric, and a cover-up of the real political ideology of this shooter. And that was just further exposed by Elon Musk, of all people, as Donald Trump is panicking to try to paint his false narrative. We are going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into how Elon has blown up and exposed the lies of the right and Donald Trump, I want to start with one of the most perfect responses I have seen to this shooting, and that was a pastor who called out Charlie Kirk, and I want to take a look.
Charlie Kirk did not deserve to be assassinated. But I'm overwhelmed seeing the flags of the United States of America at half-staff calling this nation to honor and venerate a man who was an unapologetic racist and spent all of his life sowing seeds of division and hate into this land. And hearing people with selective rage who were mad about Charlie Kirk but didn't give a damn about Melissa Hortman and her husband when they were shot down in their home, tell me I ought to have compassion for the death of a man who had no respect for my own life. I am sorry, but there's nowhere in Bible where we are taught to honor evil. And how you die does not redeem how you lived. You do not become a hero in your death when you are a weapon of the enemy in your life. I can abhor the violence that took your life, but I don't have to celebrate how you chose to live. I am overwhelmed.
This is exactly what I've been saying. We should not be forced to condemn political violence or condemn a shooting when our actions live that condemnation. When the left has worked for decades to stop the epidemic of gun violence in this country, when it is the rhetoric of the right that inspires riots. We didn't see vigils for Charlie Kirk. We saw white nationalists chanting for them to take their country back, which they stole with political violence. This is not a white evangelical nation. This was a nation taken from its people through systematic political violence. That is what America is. And any white guy whose parents came over here in the 30s demanding that black people who were dragged to America and enslaved hundreds of years ago give them their country back, what we've heard from white nationalists only just confirms what Charlie Kirk's legacy is, and that is one of violence through his words, inflicting pain on marginalized people and telling his supporters to harass them. And that is the rhetoric we see kept up even in the wake. And before we get to how Elon exposed the cover-up, I want to see how he contributed to that.
Whether you choose violence or not, violence is coming to you. You either fight back or you die. You either fight.
This is what we're seeing from the right. And although Elon helped expose what it is, he's also so stupid that he was engaging with it. They want a war. They want something to point to get themselves angry, to justify their actions, because they want the authoritarian takeover by Donald Trump's government. That is what they are so desperate for. They don't want to heal. They don't want to mourn. They want to attack marginalized communities. That is what Charlie Kirk is about. That is what his legacy was about. And that is why I refuse to give in to this faux outrage and for my heart to break for a widow who is using her husband's death as an opportunity to, firstly, raise money, but two, try to inflict pain on marginalized groups. And that's what's been done by white guys who've carried out these attacks for decades. And Elon Musk tried to cover that up, and he admitted to it. Grok, Elon Musk's AI, wrote on Twitter, based on reports, Charlie Kirk was killed on September 10th, 2025 by suspect Tyler Robinson, whose online activity referenced far-right memes in fascism. Voter records show no party affiliation, but some sources link him to conservative views. Melissa Hortman and her husband were killed in June 2025 by Vance Bolter, a confirmed Trump voter. On stats, ADL shows 75% of U.S. extremist murders, 2013 to 2022, were by far-right actors. Those sources like CSIS note rising far-right threats, while Cato emphasizes overall rarity includes other ideologies. Definitions of political murders vary across studies. Elon responded to this factual report saying, "My apologies. We are fixing this cringe idiocy by Grok." Elon is actively admitting to working to cover up what is the truth, that the right wing carries out these attacks, and the true ideological leanings that the Trump administration is desperate to muddy the waters on of this alleged shooter were right wing, were far right. Elon wants that covered up. Donald Trump wants it covered up. Kash Patel wants it covered up. It's the reason why they keep saying that they're going to be looking into what trans supporting groups that this alleged shooter was affiliated with, because that's what they want to do. Donald Trump knows that he has failed to scapegoat and fearmonger immigrants during his administration, now that his illegal mass deportation agenda is so politically unpopular. So now he's moved on to another marginalized group, which he and the rest of his supporters like to harass, and that's trans Americans. That is the focus. That is what they want to do. That is what they're trying to exploit. They want hate to fester right now, above all else. And don't even get me started on the right begging, demanding that the left condemn political violence. Political violence is not just when your favorite white supremacist gets shot. Political violence takes place every single day in our country. It is when the disgusting sick care, not even health care system that we've set up, that the Trump administration is now encouraging companies to use AI to decline people's claims when someone is unable to afford their medicine, because we have kept all of the wealth in our country at the top 0.001%. People are dying because they're rationing insulin when they're going bankrupt because they can't afford their cancer treatments. That is a form of political violence. Donald Trump disappearing people, shipping them to El Salvador. What do you think? They do that nicely? Do you think they say please? No, they throw you into the back of a van. And so get out of here with this selective outrage, this selective memory. It's bullshit. I'm tired of it. This is what is happening in our country on a daily basis. For you to say, oh, this isn't who we are. This is exactly who we are because you voted for the fucking fascist. And I'm tired of acting like that's not the truth, because it is. So spare me the fake tears, spare me the faux outrage, spare me the little Instagram story that your conservative friend from high school, this is hitting a little close to home right now, who doesn't want to talk about kids in Gaza getting killed, but Charlie Kirk, because he made fun of black people, they love him, and they're all riled up. Jasmine Crockett put it perfectly in the way that she described the truth of this situation.
The Supreme Court had one of its shadow docket decisions, which are kind of dodgy because you don't get a real explanation. Yeah. And this one is about ICE raids in Los Angeles and the ability for ICE to kind of just roll people up, right? Because of accent or ethnicity or what they look or where they happen to be if they're gathered outside a Home Depot. Supreme Court said that was okay. Which is kind of wild because the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution says it's not okay.
Yeah, so it's interesting as we sit here in New York. I can think back to a time in which there was stop and frisk.
Yes, that's correct.
And I could think back to a time in which that was found to be unconstitutional.
That's right.
And it was considered an unreasonable search,
Yes.
as we know the Fourth Amendment stands for. And now it's almost like this argument that the Republicans have been making that somehow if you are not an American citizen, that you are not afforded the same rights under the Constitution. Like, I've got colleagues that debate whether or not they are entitled to due process, and it's like, actually,
That's
they
not
are.
debatable, yes.
Like, it's not debatable,
Yes.
but they are trying to make it debatable. They are trying to make it seem like, well, if you're an American citizen, you get it, but if you're not an American citizen, you don't get it. And that's why we saw Donald Trump just randomly kicking people out of this country and not giving them their day in court. And we know that even American citizens have been rounded up in that. And so that is what's so dangerous about this opinion, is that we know that you don't have to pass an accent test to actually be a U.S. citizen, right? So this idea that you can look at somebody and say, I'm looking at you and I think that you don't belong.
Yep.
Well, who is it that does belong? That's my question, because it seems like they are all about making sure if you don't have any melanin or very little, then you're the ones that look like you belong, and you can't look at somebody and know whether or not they are a U.S. citizen.
Right.
So why is it okay for ICE to then go out and see somebody and look at them or hear them and say whether or not they're a U.S. citizen, to the extent that they are, in my opinion, violating their constitutional rights?
And for those people who don't fear that they'll be arrested in an immigration roundup because they look like they belong, this amendment, the idea that we've softened up around the Fourth Amendment, will one day come for you, because today it's about immigration. But if it could be about anything at this point.
No, and again, I think
you might be a subversive.
Well, and I also think that we may end up going back to stop and frisk. I think that they may end up relitigating that and then just decide that they want to go into certain communities. And they want to start rounding up certain people, whether it's that you wear a long black trench coat or whether it's that you are black. Like, I think that they may end up relitigating that issue specifically because of this opinion. So I think it's a slippery slope.
And of course, the complication here is because of the shadow docket stuff. You would think that if you're going to attack something that is an amendment in the Constitution, and you're going to say that there's something wrong with it, I'd like to have a thorough airing of that.
No oral argument. On this issue, not hearing where the sides are coming from, not hearing from the justices and having them ask questions and really test it and to make sure that it stands up to constitutional muster. No, it's a very dangerous thing to do, especially in this time of over-policing by this out-of-control
and that's the issue, right?
If you want to condemn political violence, protest against Donald Trump's ICE raids. Call out his administration. Stop voting for Republicans. Actions, not hollow words. That's what we're going to keep doing. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. You can also subscribe to my Substack. We're going to be talking about all sorts of issues over there. And as always, keep fighting. Do not let them try to silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.